Hey guys, it's Shanna. I figured I would film a little chit chat, get ready with me type video. I'm gonna do this quick face of makeup, get ready so we can go to the trampoline park after, and then and also talk to you about my addiction story. I wanted to talk a little bit about my addiction that I dealt with in the past. For those of you that know me, you know that I was addicted to prescription pills for close to 10 years. It started when I was about 17 or so, I would say. I hurt my back. I was working, I bent over wrong, and I hurt my back. And it wasn't nothing serious, like I could walk fine. I wasn't working in a super labor intensive job, I was just working at a shoe store. So I went to the doctor and I was prescribed Tylenol 4s. For those of you that don't know, Tylenol 4s have 60 milligrams of codeine in them. Probably something that even more people don't know is when you take anything with that sort of opiate in it, if you take it consistently for about 3 days, on that 4th day if you stop, you will experience some form of withdrawal. It's not going to be anything severe because it was only 3 days, but you might have a runny nose and not know why, or you might be a little bit more sore that day. Your body kind of aches and you might think you have the cold and you don't know why. Well, those are all withdrawal symptoms coming down from opiates. So yeah, I was prescribed Tylenol 4s for back pain. I was on those for a while, and that was kind of the beginning. Then I ended up going for gastric bypass surgery when I was I think I was 18 or just before I turned 18. I ended up having some major complications. So that recovery was about 3 months. So of course when you have surgery, you are prescribed painkillers. You can guess they prescribed Tylenol 4s again. So those 3 months pass. I did end up going back to work at the shoe store. Somewhere along the way, I must have lifted something that was too heavy and I ended up giving myself a hernia in my stomach. Of course, I had to go have surgery for that. And guess what? I was prescribed Tylenol 4s again. Ended up having a 6-inch by 8-inch mesh put in the lining of my stomach so that I wouldn't end up ripping my stomach again. I went back to work and things were going okay. If I can remember correctly, I think I hurt my back again or something happened like that. I went to my family doctor and I was given Tylenol 4s. It seemed like they kept coming back to me. So after that, I stayed at the shoe store for a while until I found out I was pregnant. I was really sick when I was pregnant with my daughter. So sick that they had to take my gallbladder out when I was 5 months pregnant. So I go have my gallbladder taken out. That was probably one of the most painful surgeries I've had. I was sent home again with Tylenol 4s. And at this point, I'd been on them pretty consistently. I start noticing after all of this that I stopped taking these pills and I feel sick. I don't know why. So I go see my family doctor. Comes down to the fact that you're addicted to them now and you can't stop and go through withdrawal while you're pregnant. So we're gonna keep you on these Tylenol 4s throughout the rest of your pregnancy so as to not make the pregnancy even worse, because I was already really sick. So my family doctor's prescribing me these Tylenol 4s, really for no reason. My daughter was born, she was healthy, there was no problems. I had a C-section with her. Guess what they gave me in the hospital after my C-section? More Tylenol 4s. So I was sent home on the 3rd or the 4th day with Talia and things were going good. But I noticed that I couldn't stop. Every time I would try and stop taking them, I would get sick. And by sick, I don't mean like sick throwing up. I mean every bone in your body feels like it's breaking. You get the runny nose, you get the headache, you get that sore body feeling. Everything that you would get with a flu, I was getting minus the throwing up. I wasn't throwing up. But it was still almost unbearable. My doctor, my lovely family doctor, kept prescribing them for me. So when Talia was 2 months old, I found out that I was pregnant with my son. That pregnancy was probably the one where it went downhill for me. I was really sick with my second pregnancy. I was still taking codeine. I was seeing my doctor almost weekly, sometimes maybe even twice a week. When he wasn't there, I would see someone else. One time I went in and my doctor wasn't there, so I seen a different doctor and he says, look, Shanna, you cannot be taking this much Tylenol with codeine while you're pregnant. It's not healthy. But there's something called codeine contin, which she'll provide that codeine without all the extra stuff that I didn't really need. So he says what we're going to do is we're going to switch you over to codeine contin. You take 2 in the morning, 2 at night. They last for 12 hours and you won't have any withdrawal symptoms, which at the time that sounded great. So this is wonderful. I was taking about 70 Tylenol 4s a day at that point. I was getting 1,000 a week from my doctor and no one was ever asking any questions. For me to look back and think, like, I don't understand how there was no questions being asked. I don't understand how the pharmacy was giving me that many pills and not asking questions, but that's how it went. I switched over to codeine contin, which was great. I was taking 2 in the morning, 2 at night. I wasn't feeling sick. So I go back to my doctor after a few months, my regular family doctor, because for some reason, those 4 pills a day were not cutting it anymore. What I know now is that my body had gotten used to the 4 a day. 4 wasn't cutting it anymore. Then I needed 5. I continued like that for a little while. And then, you guessed it, 5 turned into 6. That's when it got bad. I couldn't really take 7 a day just because they wouldn't prescribe 7 a day. It was a little bit too much. So they tried to cut me back, which didn't go over well at all. I kept going back to my family doctor saying I can't do this. I said I couldn't control myself. It was stronger than me. If I had the pills in the house, I would take them. They put me on like a restricted prescription. I'd get 35 pills every 7 days. I couldn't pick up anymore. The pharmacy wouldn't let me. I couldn't help it if I had the pills in the house. I was running out of them. I was taking them. So that prescription was supposed to last me 7 days, and so 4 a day would have been 28 pills, and then I had those couple extras where I could take that 5th pill a day if I needed to. Eventually what happened was my doctor had prescribed me pills in the middle of that prescription. And for some reason that never flagged. They didn't say, like, this doesn't make sense. Why would they put a restriction on it if you're just going to come every 3 days anyways? It made no sense. But I did. And I did for a long time. What my doctor started doing was giving me, I don't even know what they were. He'd give me pills from his office. And he'd say, this will tie you over for the next day or 2. And then you can go get your new prescription. I thought, like, hey, he's a great doctor. I mean, he's looking out for me. He understands. He understands that I need these pills to live. But now I can see none of that was done out of caring about me. This would have been in about the end of 2011, the beginning of 2012. This was my absolute worst. I'd wait at the pharmacy for 5 hours just to get 1 pill. That's how important it was. When you're in that situation, there's no way you're going to choose to get sick. I was one of the lucky ones, I would say, in that I never went outside of my own prescription. To feed my addiction, I had to go through a doctor. Although, looking back, clearly my doctor was just a drug dealer. I mean, let's be honest. He was just legally a drug dealer. So there was even one point where my brother was keeping my medication in a locked cabinet in his room because I couldn't be trusted to have it with me. But what my parents and my brother didn't know is that my doctor had already prescribed me another prescription and I had picked it up and I used to keep it in my bra. Those made me feel safe. I knew I had them. Around this time, my family started talking about moving back to Ontario. And they did. They left for Ontario. And I stayed out here with my husband and my kids, and we stayed at my brother's house. At that point, I think, is where everything changed. It went from being like taking all these pills, but it's not life-threatening, to the point where if I keep going like this, I'm not gonna live much longer. When my parents left, I was really sick. And I remember my pills were yellow. For about 4 days, I threw up and it was just yellow. And I remember thinking like, this is either like just I had the flu, like this is, you know, stomach acid or whatever, or this is because there's so much codeine in my system that that's all I can throw up. And I remember thinking like, oh my God, like I'm either poisoning myself or, you know, I just have a really bad flu. I knew that we were going to be moving to Ontario too. And with that, I would need to find a new doctor. So what ended up happening is my doctor had left for a little while, but he had another doctor that was taking over. And I went in and I told this doctor, like, look, I'm moving to Ontario. I'm going to need, you know, at least 3 months of pills to get me through it before I can apply for Ontario healthcare. So what they ended up doing was giving me enough pills for 6 a day for 3 months. That was about a week before I moved. By the time I moved, I had less than half that left. I'm terrified. I don't like flying. I was scared to fly alone with the kids. I was terrified. And so I took more pills. I took so many pills to the point where I don't remember that flight. Looking back now, I realize that that move is what saved my life. I wouldn't have made it. I took more pills and I just kept taking them, and I knew darn well I was gonna run out before I could find a doctor. I was mad. I hated the apartment. I didn't want to stay there, but I had no choice. I had no vehicle. My vehicle was still out here, and I took a lot of pills. I was there for about 4 days and I finished. I had about 15 pills left. This is in May of 2012. I don't remember those first 5 days. And one other thing, I lied. One other thing. I remember looking in the mirror and I couldn't see myself. Everything was just a blur. And I knew it was looking at me, but it wasn't me. It was just like, I was like a zombie, like an actual zombie. So I had been in Ontario for about 5 days and things were going really bad. I knew I was going to run out of pills and I couldn't find a doctor. So I got desperate. I took out the phone book and I started going down the list of addiction places, thinking, you know, if I can find an addiction place, then maybe they can help me find a doctor quicker because they'll understand. So I ended up calling this addictions place. I explained my situation. I said I don't have enough pills left. I'm gonna run out this weekend. This was on May 10th. The person that I spoke to said, okay, we have an appointment tomorrow morning. So I said, okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. I had enough pills for at least, you know, 2-3 days. I went in with the expectation that they're going to help me find a doctor. They understand that I'm addicted and they know that I can't just stop, because all along I've been told by my doctor I can't stop. He'd look straight at me and say, you never can. You'll never come off those pills. You need those pills for the rest of your life. My parents had made appointments with him without me even knowing, saying, where can we send her? And he'd say, oh no, when you're constantly being told, like, she can't come off these pills, she's gonna need them for the rest of her life. Eventually, you almost start to believe it. That was my defense. Like, the doctor said I need these. I need these for the rest of my life. I don't get why everyone around me doesn't understand that the doctor said I need these for the rest of my life. I go for the appointment the next day. So my grandmother took me. So I got my grandmother bringing me to an addiction services center. Thank God she did, because that was the day. It turns out that this addiction services place is just that. It's a place that helps with addiction. They don't hook you up with a new doctor. They try to get you help. And she says, look, Shanna, there's a place not far from here in Cornwall that, you know, they deal with this. She says, do you want me to call this place in Cornwall and see if they have any room? There was that 1% of me that was like, you know, what do I do? If I can't get these pills, I'm not going to make it through the weekend because I'm going to get sick. I'm going to die for sure. Like, at this point, I couldn't even walk straight. So I said, fine, call. So she calls and they say, yeah, there's one bed available, but it's available now. Not in 3 hours. It's available now. So she says, do you want this bed? And I'm like, no. But yeah. Something clicked and I just said like, fine. So I had to go home and pack and then get there. I forgot a pile of stuff, so we like 5 minutes into the drive I had to turn back. My dad ran in because I said if I go in I'm not coming back out. While he was inside I took a handful of pills. I took like half of the amount of pills that I had left because I knew they were going to take them. The second day was a different story. I woke up and I was so sick and it got to the point where I couldn't take it. So I went out and I told them like I need to go to the hospital. Somebody needs to help me. I can't do this without some sort of medical help. They gave me, I think it was like a blood pressure medication that helps with withdrawal symptoms. It helped a lot. I got through it. I got through those 7 days. I completed my 7 days and I got out and I was like, wow, I made it through 7 days. Like everything should be fixed. But that's not how it works. 7 days doesn't fix 10 years of addiction. There was no way I could do it alone. I had to learn everything over again. It's amazing how important sleep is. It was unreal. I experienced stuff that summer that I had never experienced before, and that was a tough thing for me. So I had to get used to having sore bones, sore back. Normal people wake up with a sore back one day. It's just how it is. But I didn't know that. And then after that summer, my husband started working and we got into a routine and my daughter started junior kindergarten and things got back to somewhat of a routine and a normal life. I got into this routine of not having to depend on medication every morning. It is what it is. It's a normal thing to have days where you don't feel great, and it's a normal thing to have days that are really good, and that's just how it goes. I think the biggest thing is it doesn't matter how many people tell you that you need help, you need to know. And do I think I'm anything special for doing it? No. I think I just got to that point where I knew that I had no other choice. It was do it or die. That's the point where you realize that you don't want to do it, but you have to. Anyone can get help. You just need to want it and know that that's your only way that you're truly gonna get better. But that's kind of my story. I mean, it's been 5 years. My 5 years is coming up here, so it's pretty exciting. But I just want anyone to know that there is help. There's people that are going through the same thing that you are. There's people that have went through it and have made it out perfectly on the other side. So just know that you're not alone, and the first step is just knowing that you need help, admitting it, and then going for it. That's all you can do, right? Hopefully this helps somebody. I mean, it's not a super informative makeup video, but that's not what I wanted my channel to be about. I wanted it to kind of be a little bit of everything, and I figured since I didn't have a ton of time today, I could just quickly talk about this. So by all means, if anyone has any questions or, I mean, I don't think I'm qualified to give any advice, but if you have any questions, I mean, I might know the answer. I might not, but maybe someone else does. So it doesn't hurt in asking, right? Hopefully it helps. You can do it. I'll see you in my next video. Bye. My God, what are the kids doing up there?